Καλησπέρα. Most of the items have already been touched upon from the previous speakers, so I will try to stay a little bit on key elements that will add value, I believe, to all of you. So, Latsco has entered the LPG trade back in the 80s. Currently, we operate a fleet of VLGCs and LGCs, modern vessels. The oldest is from 2015. And the summer of 2021, we took delivery of the first dual fuel LPG VLGC from Hyundai Samho. We have 4 VLGCs on order. We contracted in December and February, earlier this year, with deliveries late 2025 and 2026. Looking at the product itself, as Mr. Georgantzis mentioned, the LPG is a refrigerated gas. In order to be liquefied, we need to compress it or liquefy or refrigerate down to minus 42, approximately for propane, or 18 bars if we go for ambient temperatures. That basically means we need the Type A tank, which is okay on a gas carrier. It's not okay on a conventional vessel. Or we need the Type C pressurized tank for a vessel other than a gas carrier or a gas carrier. The volume that we need to transport is approximately 1.4 times bigger for comparing to traditional marine gas oil. Looking into well-to-wake approach and considering the life cycle assessment from IMO that it's on the way, the LPG has approximately 70% lower CO2 emissions compared with conventional fuel. And I guess it is better compared with the diesel cycle of the LNG, as Mr. Georgantzis mentioned. And it's much better than the Otto cycle of the LNG engines. Looking at the order book and the vessels, the upper row refers to the VLGCs. The figures are as of last week. There are 342 vessels trading, and we have 73 on order. Out of 73, 100% is ordered as dual fuel vessel, and this is very important. If we move down to the mid-size, I skip the LGCs, which is the 60,000 cubic meters, and it's very specialized size with only 21 vessels around the world. If we go to the mid-size, there are 113 vessels, and the order book is 21, but only half of them are ordered with dual fuel option. The remaining ones still will run on conventional fuel. The way we understand this is simply because the capex for converting a vessel to dual fuel is so high that if you move to a smaller vessel, then the proportion of the capex goes too high over the vessel's value. So if we see on the bottom where the trade is, we see mainly US Gulf, Middle East for the big vessels, and a little bit on West Africa. This has changed over the last decade that the US became an exporter from an importer that used to be, and the enlargement of the Panama Canal has also changed the world trade. Looking at the VLGCs, 42% of the vessel exceeds 14 years of age, so it's not a very young fleet. But this year, we're going to have more than 45 deliveries. This is resembling the situation that we had back in 2015. But then, this drops until the end of 26, and there are no more orders, there are more slots. Currently, you cannot get an LPG from the market. The shipyards are fully booked, and the last 2 slots available were sold last Friday to an Asian buyer. 2027 is not up for sale yet from the big yards, Hyundai, Samsung, or Daewoo. Looking at the design, I've tried to present the 82K design, which is an old design from the late 2000. The current standard design from Hyundai, 88,000 cubic, and the design that we have developed, the 87. It has taken us a year to develop the current design together with Hyundai. And the reason is we believe that when we have a dual fuel vessel, the vessel is not only dual fuel when it consumes LPG in the main engine. The vessel is a dual fuel vessel when it can complete the round voyage on the intended route on the specific fuel. So a dual fuel vessel is a vessel that can carry the round voyage on fuel, conventional fuel, or on gas, which for our vessel necessitated to have a dedicated 4,300 cubic segregated LPG fuel tank within number 3 cargo tank at a significant cost. But we have also increased the fuel tank size up to 3,000 cubic compared with the 1,400 being on the conventional standard design from the builders. That gives us a range of approximately 22,000 miles that enables the vessel to complete the round voyage in either fuel. At the same time, we have increased the main engine output in order to accommodate the shaft generator that is installed on top, simply because we don't want to run the auxiliary engines while at sea. So we want to have a big engine, big main engine, that is able to accommodate propulsion loads plus power demand loads. This will not be possible with the standard design with an 11,000 kilowatt engine, simply because the engine is not big enough to take the loads, and then you will need to run generator engines, which comes at a reduced performance coefficient and at increased consumption. So this is a typical trade for the VLGC, loading in Houston, discharging in Ningbo, and heading back to Houston through the Panama Canal. This is approximately 19,000 miles. And then we have West Africa, Singapore, and back. So in order to be able to complete this round voyage, the vessel needs to have the big fuel tanks. Intermediate bunkering, either in South Africa or in Panama, are not considered good options for this type of vessels. It's a loss of time, and the bunkering comes at higher prices. So looking at the reliquefaction plan and how this has developed over the years, we started with 4 units of small size back in the early 2000s, which went up to 2010. Then we moved to 3 bigger units that we consider more efficient back then. We developed, along with Hyundai DNV, Wärtsilä Gas Systems, and MAN, the LPG project that went up to the 2 very big cargo compressors, plus a butane compressor for the vessel delivered in 2020. And then on the latest vessel design that we contracted recently, we moved to 3 units. The reasons for doing so is high flexibility, simply because the 2 big units didn't provide the flexibility we wanted under special loading conditions. And then overall having a better operational performance, which if we take at the refrigeration capacity, we see that the 3 compressor is providing 126% compared with the standard, at more or less approximately the electric power consumed. But if we go on a daily basis, we have less than 8,000 kilowatt hours per day, which combine it with the shaft generator we said before, it's providing a super efficient vessel with very low consumptions. The design is what more or less Peter explained and presented earlier. The key point that the operators need to understand is that when the engine is running on gas, any single failure will turn the engine into conventional fuel. So the engine is not designed, or the fuel gas supply system in general is not designed to run on gas with a single failure. The engine within an RPM, within a revolution, will switch to fuel. It might be okay from a safety point of view, but it might not be okay from a commercial point of view, which is causing huge implications. Looking at the dome, a typical dome arrangement, on the right side on the picture you can see the forward part of the dome. The upper part of the picture is the conventional gas carrier arrangement with the deep well pumps and all the instrumentation, safety relief valves. But on the back side you see 2 additional pumps, smaller ones. These are the pumps that feed the main engine. They run 24/7, 365 days. And the tank is segregated on the forward part, being the cargo side, on the aft part being the fuel tank side. In order to measure the fuel, the LPG fuel we use similar systems as on the cargo side, which are certified from external sworn surveyors. like SGS and KK or similar companies. Moving to the potential retrofit, besides the 15 BW vessels that have been retrofitted in China, VLGCs, no other such project has gone forward. However, if somebody would consider something like that, you need to see the bunkering station, from where you're going to receive the fuel, where you're going to store it. You need Type C tanks, unavoidably. And Type C tanks have limitations on size and capacity, and at the same time they are heavy. You need fuel gas supply systems. You need an additional, let's say, traditional purifier room which is intended for the gas. Boil-off management, you don't have it on a conventional vessel. And overall, the handling of the gas. So for the Type C tanks, they have to be made from low temperature steel. They have to be located somewhere that they do not disturb or interfere with the vessel's mooring operations or cargo operations, whatever that is. And all in all, it's quite an expensive exercise. I would say it's way in excess of 10 million for an exercise like this. And if somebody would like to run a project, it would take at least 12 to 18 months, so 1.5 years, depending on lead time for equipment, in order to complete. And of course, you need to contact a very capable CPR for doing so. So far, we have not seen any other company being interested in running something like that. However, the lack of slots from a new building yard might create a need in the future for converting vessels delivered after 2015 that have the engines that can be converted into dual fuel vessels. That's all from my side. I hope I've made the time.